Thanks.
Perek Yutes. Okay. The last thing we did was page Tzadik Vav, the middle paragraph. We're going to start the next paragraph now. V'hinei, dibarnu ad atom min ha'achnoa u'min ha'boishes. Until now, we spoke about hachna, like anava, lowering oneself in front of the, because of Yira, in front of the greatness of Hashem. U'min ha'boishes, which our best translation of boishes is shyness. It's not embarrassment. It's a certain shyness in front of something that's so much greater than us. But now we will speak about the inyan of kavod.
You said anava is lowering oneself?
Hachna is lowering oneself.
Like, as opposed to like lifting the other person up?
That's not relevant to this. We're talking about between you and Hashem.
Yeah, same like there's one thing. I'm like this little person versus God's like this like big.
That is what it is. You are this little person. What?
I'm saying that's the same thing. I'm saying you are the little person.
Compared to Hashem?
Right.
Infinitesimal, however the word is, little. Yes.
No, I'm not
It
saying
shouldn't hurt our egos. It shouldn't bruise our egos to be
saying,
tiny compared to Hashem.
No, I'm not saying that we're not. I'm saying is the mentality lowering ourselves or lifting them up?
The mentality is recognizing how limited we are compared to Hashem. It's the automatic reaction of being in the presence of something so great. It's not about what I do to myself. It's the automatic sense that I have. When you ever look out the top of a very, very, very tall building and you look out and you look down, you don't need to say, okay, what should I feel now? It has an effect on you. So the same thing is true when we're in the presence of Hashem. We're not like, oh, 1 second, let me check the Mesilas Yesharim and see what I'm supposed to feel now. No, that hakara has an effect on me. But excuse me. But now we're going to move on to the inyan of kavod. Kavod is a very, very dangerous and interesting midah, the midah of honor. And the fascinating thing about kavod is that, for example, Chazal say that someone who runs after kavod runs away from him. And someone who runs away from kavod, we're going to talk about having kavod for mitzvahs, but let's just talk about the midah for a minute. Someone who runs away from kavod chases after him. That's cute. But what does that mean? Why is that true? It's like a segula. Like if you run after kavod, I'll show you. You won't have any kavod. And if you're running away from kavod, oh, you're such an amazing guy, we'll give you kavod. Is that the pshat? Because if that was the pshat, it should be true with every midah. Every good midah, if you run after, you get more of it. Like this specific thing that if you run after kavod, kavod runs away. That dichotomy, that's something that exists dafka by kavod. What do you mean? Okay, I'm not sure if we got there yet. I'm not sure if we passed it. I actually think it's in Nikiyos. There is a Mesilas Yesharim that brings out this point that when a person acts with gaiva, everyone notices except for him. It's like a thing about gaiva. Like when you see someone acting with gaiva, you're like, poor guy. Like it's like everyone sees it and he doesn't. But excuse me. But there's something deeper here, and that is that what would you say is a good definition of honor, of kavod? The midah of kavod. When we talk about kavod of a mitzvah, kavod shamayim, kavod of a person. Okay, could you define that? To but kavod is something. cherishing something is one midah. Kavod is a different midah. It's related. Let me tell you what I think, okay? You tell me if you agree with me. I think that kavod is an external expression of an internal chashivas. In other words, kavod is external. The question is, what is it expressing? When a person has a kavod miduma, he's like balgaiva, like the pshat is there's nothing inside, and he's expressing kavod with there's nothing inside. Right? When you're mechabed chanifa, let's say, chanifa is like flattering someone. So you go to someone who's a wealthy guy, let's say, with horrific midas and so on, but you need to be mechanef him, so you give him kavod. There, it's false kavod. It's not real kavod, because it's a expression of chashivas, but it's not an external expression of an internal chashivas. It's just an expression of chashivas without anything internal. That's not kavod. Kavod is an external expression of an internal chashivas. And therefore, if someone is chasing after kavod, that's the opposite of kavod. It self-destructs. If someone's chasing after kavod, he's looking outside for that chashivos that really should exist inside. So someone who's roidev achar kavod, he's doing the thing that's anti-kavod. Kavod is an expression of something real on the inside. If you're rushing to try to find, could be mechabed me? Could you be mechabed me? Could you be mechabed me? Because I'm completely empty on the inside, so I would like you to make me feel good on the outside. That be'etzem makes me less roy for kavod. But if I say, guys, it doesn't matter if you have kavod or not, because I know I have something in my heart that's valuable, that's chashuv. I know I'm a chashuv person. I know that I have value. I know that I have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I know that I'm a yid. Whatever the different parts of me. So then I'm running away from kavod because I look at kavod as an external thing. It's not valuable to me.
Then why does he get it?
What?
Then why does he get it? Why does he get it?
Because kavod is the result. When there's chashivas inside, it expresses itself externally. That's what happens. That's why very, very, very chashuv people have a very hard time not getting kavod. Because their essence, kavod is what happens when there's an inner chashivas that it gets expressed externally. So his lack of wanting to go with the external causes kavod to chase after him because there's so much there. I want to tell you about a letter that I have framed on my desk at home. Okay, next time you're in my house, you could ask me to show it to you. Okay, it's for years. You've been there with the letter there. I don't think I ever read it to you, but my desk is not always easy to find everything that's on it, as you know. So, but there's a letter that I keep framed because of the unbelievable lessons that I learned from that letter. And the letter is from Rav Kook, Zeichet Tzadik Livracha, who there's printed from him volumes of letters. Okay? And Rav Kook was a Talmud Chacham on a level that's almost impossible to wrap our heads around. The level, his knowledge and his yediyah of Torah was his yediyah of Torah Hanigla and his yediyah of Torah Hanistar were like way, way, way beyond even the Talmidei Chachamim that we associate with. He was like a very, very, very unique. But because of the certain positions that he took in his hashkafa and his hanhaga, he had many Gedolei Yisrael that disagreed with him. Okay, that's fine. A machlaikis is okay, you know. Apparently, they say over. I didn't hear this firsthand, but they say over. I heard it pretty reliably. They say over that Rabbi Yitzchak Hutner, who had some kind of relationship with him, with Rav Kook, at a certain point when something happened in Eretz Yisrael, a certain thing happened. So Rav Hutner said this lashon in Yiddish. He said, "Weist ois as die halacha is nicht kamoisei." Like apparently the halacha is not like him, because that's what he held. That's what his shita. Okay, so halavai, everyone would be able to disagree with such class, you know. there's a machlokes of different tzaddikim. Weißt du, the halacha is not that way. And even with his arch rival was Rabbi Chaim Sonnenschein from Yerushalayim. They had tremendous respect for each other. Tremendous respect. And the story is told even that a grandson, I think, of Rabbi Chaim Sonnenschein went to deliver something to Rav Kook's house. So he was in the enemy camp, and he felt very uncomfortable. Can you imagine? There's like these two parties, and the lower levels, by Gedolim themselves, they're able to maintain a certain decorum of a machlokes. But once it gets to the Hamoinam, it could get ugly, And this kid is like walking into like the house of the enemy, and apparently Rav Kook called him over and saw his discomfort, and Rav Kook said, "I want to tell you something. It's only because of what your grandfather does that I'm able to do what I do." In other words, without saying it straight out, he was like, we may have a machlokes, but we're really accomplishing two different things, and there's a relationship between my tafkin in this world and his tafkin in this world. So that's a type of respect. Like, that's a nice story, right? Not everyone was so nice, and there were people. Maybe for good reason. It's not, we're not being machnes our heads into the machlokes of great people, but there were people that were furious at Rav Kook, and they wrote him letters, and they wrote letters about him that were fiery. And again, chas v'shalom, it's not our place to make any judgment call one way or the other, because when a person knows a mesechta or two more than us, they're already in another plane of thought process. We're talking about people that knew Kol HaTorah Kula, so we're not attempting to be nichnas into their thought process. But I learned something from a response. The letter is in response to what a certain tzaddik said to Rav Kook, a fiery letter, raking him over the coals. And Rav Kook writes back to him, first of all, with tremendous honorary titles of Gadlus, L'chvoid, the great Gadol, and Tzaddik, and so on. And then Rav Kook says, look, I be'etzim wasn't going to write this letter. There's no reason for me to write this letter. However, when I saw your letter, I saw how much pain you're in from the things that you think about me. And I said to myself that it's not okay that such a great Talmud Chacham should be in so much pain because of what he thinks about me, and I want to help alleviate your pain. So I want to tell you, I'm not who you think I am. And then he describes a little bit about his mahalach in life, about his Torah and his involvement with the tzibur, and his involvement in Sisrei Torah and the secrets of the Torah. Just such a beautiful, expressive letter. And then, and this gets back to our covered conversation, and then he goes to he says as follows. He says, I want to tell you that from the time that I got involved in the hidden parts of the Torah, the pnimius of the Torah, I stopped needing people's compliments. Interesting statement, no? From the time that I really hooked into Torah, I stopped needing people's compliments. Memela, I also stopped caring about their criticism, which is also such an intelligent two sides of the coin. So I really have I have nothing to convince you of. It's okay, you can scream if you want. But I just, I care about you, and I don't want you to be bitzar. And he writes to him, I am your friend, or whatever, and he ends off talking about Anava. He says, I am the iskufa hanidreses. I am the doorstep that gets stepped on. Of Rabbi Yitzchak Akai and Kook. And then he says, Nun Beis. You know what Nun Beis is? Nun Beis is like P.S. I don't know why you're blaming me for what a certain author wrote in my name. I don't even know who he is. why are you judging me based on what another author wrote in my name? Aleph Yud Kuf, Avram Yitzchak Kohen Kook. Nun Beis. Like PSS, you know? I looked into who this author is. He's also a good guy. You shouldn't criticize him either. Aleph Yud Kuf. To me, it was just like, I sometimes, being in a leadership role in a community, you sometimes find yourself embroiled in things, and people have tightness on you, and things that you thought, or said, or moves that you made. And to me, it was just such a lesson of, like, first of all, calm under fire. And second of all, being able to see someone in a positive light, even if they're not seeing you in a positive light. And third of all, and this is the part that's negay to us, a certain confidence that's not gaiva. You following that? It's a confidence that's not gaiva. And the message there is so interesting that basically what he's saying is that when my inner world was full, I didn't need compliments anymore. To me, it's a big... I want to tell you about myself that I do need compliments. I'm working on it. I shouldn't need it. But I do need it. If someone comes over to me after a speech... Nobody come over to me after this year, by the way. If someone comes over to me after a speech and says, oh, that was very meaningful, I meant a lot, whatever, it's very meaningful to me. A while ago, I gave a shiur, and I felt like the shiur didn't go well. I spoke to my wife afterwards. She said, hi, what's doing? Not so good. Feeling pretty bad about myself. I gave a shiur. I didn't feel like it went well. Okay, we're continuing to schmooze. And then we hung up. Of course, I'm driving, you understand? That's what I do my whole life. I'm driving. And then, I'm in the middle of another call. I get another call from her. I quickly got off the phone, called her back. Everything okay? I just got off the phone with her 10 seconds ago. She said, I'm thinking how wrong it is that because you gave a shiur that didn't go well, you're not feeling good about yourself. What's wrong with you? You gave a shiur that didn't go well. Didn't go well. Move on. Like, what's it got to do with you? Ouch. It's very painful sometimes when the wife is right, you know? But it was a very, very, very important turning point for me. Like, in a certain sense, turning point. It was a point. It was a nekuda for me that some of us, I'm like this. I assume I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one around the table like this. But some of us, we need external haskamas to feel like we're worth something. We need that external pat on the back, and if we don't get it, we feel like we're not worth anything. That's something that Rav Kook is teaching, that it's a lack of having a sense of satisfaction and connection to something internal. Feeling good about myself. I did good. There are some people that I get the feeling when they speak or they do something that they don't think about. I'm on a journey with this. I'm not in as bad shape as I was 10 years ago. There was one time, even longer than 10 years ago, about 20 years ago, I had a chabura, and with another Rosh Chabura. Together, the two of us had a chabura of Beis Medrash Bachrim. And we used to make an oneg every Friday night. We would switch off, 1 week in my house, 1 week in his house. The guys would come over, we would sing, we would say Divrei Torah, and then the guys would leave, and then we would drink. Not a lot, we would have a l'chaim, and we would schmooze over the week or whatever, the two Rosh Chabura. And inevitably, for the beginning of the Chabura, the guys would leave. We would be like, was it a good oneg? I don't know if this week was so good. No, this week was very, very good. So-and-so was singing very geschmack. And after like a few weeks of it, we were like, new rule, you're not allowed to talk about the oneg when it's over. Stop. Stop it. And it was a good lesson along the same lines. Like, you do your best, you put your best foot forward, and then you move on, you do the next best thing that you could. And then after that, there's the next thing to do, and you try to do that as best as you could. And you don't allow each thing to be like, 1 second, was that good? And you know what's going on in your mind. Was that good? And if it's good, it means I'm worth something. But if it's not good, then I'm not worth anything. And then we go through life constantly needing a pat on the back in order to prove to ourselves that we're worthy. It's good? It's good? It's good? Yeah, it's good? And what Rav Kook is teaching is that when a person has a vibrant inner world, he could learn to disconnect from needing that, and then you get a tremendous added benefit. You get a superpower. And that superpower is that criticism stops affecting you. Now, use with caution, because criticism could be a very valuable thing. So you don't want to not listen to criticism. You do want to listen. Adarab, the really strong person could listen to it and learn from it and gain from it and not let it get him down. But he's not talking about, Rav Kook is not talking about the lessons to be learned from the criticism. He's talking about just feeling broken from it. People are criticizing me. I think that we were talking the other day about a Rav that people are bashing on social media, right? How does that guy go to sleep at night? Bad day for him, But I have seen Talmidei Chacham, you might know some of them, that people can be saying all kinds of Lashon Hara about them, and they're able to use their shoulders for what Hashem created shoulders for. Do you know what Hashem created shoulders for? Hashem created shoulders for this. That's what He created them for. They'll say, no, okay, right? No. That's what Hashem created shoulders for. There's an ability that people have, if there's a certain confidence and a certain vibrant pneumius, to be able to not be, people are talking about me, okay. Interesting, it's interesting. I've seen some Talmidei Chachamim that when people are ranting about, I know one Talmid Chacham from Eretz Yisrael, that he was once, because of a certain position he took on something, he was disinvited to speak at a certain conference. It was a very public thing. He was supposed to speak at a conference, and they disinvited him because of certain positions that he took on certain topics. I think many of us will be looking for a shovel to dig a hole to hide in. And he was just he thought the whole thing was just so fascinating. He thought it was just humorous to him. So interesting. Look at this insane world that we live in. People are so narrowly focused that I took a little bit of a position that someone doesn't understand. They don't want me to speak. Wow. And he was just laughing about it. I'm not sure laughing or crying, but it wasn't about him. Okay, this is what I did. This is who I am. And, thank you for if you're complimenting me, thank you for the compliment, but it's neither here nor there. It doesn't mean anything. And it's an important thing. It's a very, very, very important thing. It's a very important midah to have. And you see how it hooks directly into what I said about kavod. Because if we would have a true sense of how chashuv we are, we would be bareach min hakavod. The search for kavod is when there's a vacuum inside. And as long as there's a vacuum inside, that's when we become hungry for that validation. And that's why it's an avodah for us to have a certain comfort with where we are and who we are and where we're up to. And our goal for the day is not to win a popularity contest. Our goal is, if you want to work on that really for Musar, become a Rav, you'll become an expert in dealing with people that are critical of you. And our goal is not to impress the people around us. We have one goal, and that is that today should be another step forward in our avodas Hashem. If we succeed in that goal, that's an enormous simcha. And if we fail in that goal, we reassess and we try again tomorrow. And then that's our chashivos, that we have the strength to do that. And if we have a bad week, then we don't say, weist ois, it must be that I'm really a lowlife. No, it's not about that. It's about the next right thing to do. I had a ha'ara I want to speak about tonight in my ladies' chair. It occurred to me while I was driving today. I had a ha'ara. I know some of you are ladies' chair fans, so I'll give you a heads up. I don't promise I'm going to speak about this, but I'm thinking about it. I had the following ha'ara. Parshas Vayakel starts with Moshe gathering Klal Yisrael together to tell them about building the Mishkan. Now, he gathered them together the day after Yom Kippur. Why? Because he originally went up the day after Shavuos, when they got the Torah, to get the Luchos. He came down and he found an Egel. So he smashed the Luchos. It was Shavasar B'Tammuz. He went back up the next day to beg Hashem to be Moichel Klal Yisrael. Finally, on Rosh Chodesh Elul, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you could come back up for the second set of Luchos. So he went back up for the second set of Luchos, and finally on Yom Kippur he came down with the second set of Luchos. Do you know how different the world was with the second set of Luchos than it would have been with the first set of Luchos? Do you understand that they were in a situation of Adam Arishan Kaidem Achet with the first set of Luchos? Do you understand they would have never forgotten any Torah? There was no Shikha. There would have been a world of going straight into Asad Lavai. They wouldn't have needed a Mishkan because their bodies would have been Mishkans. You understand what that means? And now the day after Yom Kippur, Moshe Rabbeinu says, okay, we're going to build a Mishkan. We're going to learn Torah the way we do today. If I was there, I would not be able to last that day. Look how much I lost. Such a stupid mistake I made. That stupid Egel. What did I do? I cannot believe what I did, and it's affecting me negatively for the rest of my life and until Mashiach comes. I can't deal with that. I was on the top of the world. Now you're telling me to build a Mishkan. I'm crying when you're telling me to build a Mishkan, because that Mishkan is in place of me being the Mishkan. I don't want to hear about it. I can't deal with it. But you don't find that Chazal say that reaction. Moshe Rabbeinu came down. Weiter, we move on. This is where we are today. We do what Hashem expects from us today, and we move on. HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. We made a mistake. We have a tikkun. We're doing the tikkun. We're doing tshuva. And we move on. And we don't spend time letting this whole thing tear us apart. So many people spend time bashing themselves because of mistakes that they made, and yeah, it's easy for the Rebbe to say, no, you could start fresh. Sometimes guys was like, I can't start fresh. The mistakes that I made affected me. I didn't learn for a whole year. Now I'm behind in my learning. Or, etc., etc. You know, we make mistakes sometimes. It doesn't matter. Parshas Vayakel, the parsha that nobody wants to say any Divrei Torah on, you know, it's a tough parsha, you know. Parshas Vayakel, beginning of the parsha, teaches you the biggest lesson of the whole Torah, which is that it doesn't matter what happened yesterday. It doesn't even matter if you're in a worse off place than you were today. Serving Hashem with simcha means doing today the right thing for today. And if I'm doing that, put all the cheshbonos aside. If I'm doing that, I'm ready to march forward and serve Hashem today. And to spend my time tearing myself apart about the mistakes of the past, and as you get older, you will have more to regret. There's more to look back on. Tearing myself apart about the mistakes of the past, that's gaiva. Because that's me saying, I can't let go of me. No, it's not about that. You're here in this world, your neshama is still inside your body, serve Hashem today. That's your malchus. That's your greatness. You can serve Hashem today. Right now, Parshas Vayakel, Tafshin Pei, the week after Purim, a few weeks before Pesach, there is a Wednesday. And today is a Wednesday. Whatever happened in your life until now, happened. Whatever's going to happen from Thursday and on is not in my control right now. But there's one thing that I can control, and that is I can do Wednesday the way Wednesday is supposed to be done. And if I get busy with all the mistakes that I made and all of my tsar about where I am and where I could have been and where I should have been, I'm not going to do Wednesday right. So let's take a page out of Klal Yisrael's book. Moshe Rabbeinu gets up l'machras Yom HaKippurim. It's a new world. Let's move forward from here. Yashikayach.